All right, let's dive straight into today's explainer on service and maintenance for the Leterno Super 116 E-Class jacking system. Today, our focus is absolutely crystal clear. We're breaking down the precise application of lubricants, routine brake and gear train inspections, and the critical periodic maintenance schedule.
But before we get into the heavy lifting, we've got one non-negotiable golden rule. You must always consult your vessel-specific installation, operation, and maintenance manual before performing any work. The specs we're covering today, things like torque values, clearances, and exact lubricant specs, they're drawn directly from standard operating procedures. But remember, your specific vessel's manual, that is always the ultimate authority.
So, why does this matter so much? Well, let's be real. The stakes are absolutely massive here. The jacking system relies heavily on synthetic lubricants because, frankly, they perform far better under extreme loads than conventional ones. But here's the kicker. Knowing the exact lubricant and the right interval is not just a suggestion, it's mandatory. A dry pinion bushing or a contaminated gearbox will rapidly destroy components that cost literally tens of thousands of dollars to replace. The financial and operational stakes are just too high to guess.
To protect this equipment, here is our roadmap for the explainer. First, lubrication. Know it cold. Then, routine brake inspections, gear train fatigue, motor electrical checks, and we'll wrap it all up with a periodic maintenance summary.
Okay, Section 1, lubrication. Let's just say it's the absolute lifeblood of the jacking system. Know it cold.
The requirements here are incredibly specific. For your leg rack, quarter-pitch climbing pinion, and half-pitch pinion external gears, you're using Whitmore Moly-P open gear lubricant, and that has to be applied continuously by leg observers during jacking. Then, for your quarter-pitch pinion bushings, you switch over to Mobil SHC 1500 synthetic grease, and that's applied with a grease gun right before each jacking operation. Oh, and the half-pitch pinion bearings? They also take SHC 1500, but they're actually packed before assembly.
Moving inward on the drivetrain, we need to talk fluid volumes. For the one-pitch gear reservoir and the number 4 gearbox, you are utilizing Mobil SHC 1000 synthetic oil. The number 4 gearbox requires exactly 9 US gallons, and the one-pitch reservoir takes 3 US gallons. You've got to check these levels and top them up before every single operation. Operating even slightly under volume will dramatically accelerate gear wear under those heavy loads.
Let's pause for a quick pop quiz to lock this in. What lubricant goes in the number 4 gearbox, and at what volume? Yep, exactly 9 gallons of Mobil SCT 1000. Committing these fluid volumes and specific synthetic grades to memory is simply non-negotiable out on the rig. Mistaking oil types or volumes here isn't just a minor administrative error, guys, it's a guaranteed path to mechanical failure. All right, let's shift gears to the motors. For the number 5 motor bearing on the brake end, you need Exxon Unirex N2 grease. This gets applied every 50 hours of jacking time. And crucially, listen to this, you must use a hand grease pump only. Apply it slowly, deliberately. You want to allow that grease to distribute evenly without accidentally blowing past the internal seals. Which brings us to a huge warning. Do not over-lubricate your motor bearings. I know it sounds totally counterintuitive, right? You'd naturally think more grease equals better protection. But over-lubricating will literally bake the bearings. It causes intense heat through churning, which leads straight to catastrophic bearing failure. In this case, more is absolutely not better. Precise is better. With lubrication locked down, let's jump into Section 2, routine brake inspections. I need you to mentally burn this number into your memory right now, 0.070. When you're out inspecting the brakes, you are going way beyond just a basic pre-jacking pop test. You've got to use a feeler gauge to check the air gap at all 3 adjusting points on the brake assembly. That gap must be exactly 0.070 inches, and it has to be completely uniform across all 3 points. Hitting that tolerance ensures the brake spring can fully engage and release without dragging or slipping under the massive weight of the hull. But it's not just about the air gap, right? Alongside that, you have several visual and electrical checks. You need to thoroughly inspect both the stationary and rotating brake discs for any wear, cracks, or physical damage. Electrically, you've got to test every brake coil for phase continuity, check those brake fuses, and critically, verify that the brake plug and receptacle are fully mated with absolutely zero corrosion or damage. Any resistance there can dangerously delay your brake engagement, and we definitely don't want that.
All right. Stepping up the drivetrain, we hit Section 3, gear train fatigue. Look, metal fatigue is kind of like an invisible enemy, until it suddenly isn't. When performing your routine inspections, you must examine all gear teeth really closely. You are hunting for pitting, spalling, flaking, or cracks. Don't brush these off as cosmetic issues. These are severe early warning signs that those extreme loads are already starting to compromise the structural integrity of your gear train.
Because we obviously can't easily see internal wear without tearing the whole unit down, we rely heavily on fluid analysis. You need to routinely check the oil in the 1-pitch reservoir and the number 4 gearbox for metal particles. It's a simple process. Step 1. Drain the oil into a clean container. Step 2. Examine it carefully. Seeing metal particles means internal wear is actively happening. Step 3. Check those magnetic drain plugs. Collect whatever debris is stuck there and analyze it. And step 4, for long-term trend monitoring, you should absolutely be sending samples out for periodic lab oil analysis.
Moving on to the fourth critical area, motor electrical checks, because mechanical health is really only half the battle.
Got another magic number for you right here. 1.6. Specifically, 1.6 megaohms. This is your hard, non-negotiable limit for stator insulation health. Why this specific number? Because anything lower than that indicates moisture, salt, or degradation has compromised the winding insulation to the point where a high-voltage short is basically imminent.
So how does this actually play out in your testing sequence? First, you Mager test the stator insulation. If that reading comes back at 1.6 megaohms or less, the motor is officially unsafe to operate. The insulation is shot. Do not, under any circumstances, proceed to a high pot test. Instead, that motor has to be removed and sent straight to a Cameron-authorized rebuild center. Now, if your reading is safely above 1.6, you can proceed to the high pot test. But, and this is a big but, only when the motor is completely clean and dry.
Just to wrap up the motor section, don't forget these final physical and electrical checks. You need to inspect the rotor bars for cracks, look over the laminations for any signs of dragging or physical damage, and finally, test your anti-condensation heaters to ensure they are showing the correct resistance. Remember, moisture is the absolute enemy of these motors out on the water, so those heaters have got to be working perfectly at all times.
Okay, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground. Let's pull it all together in Section 5 with our periodic maintenance summary.
Let's review these crucial intervals chronologically. Before each and every jack, you're checking oil levels, ground faults, e-stops, and running a brake test if one hasn't been done in the last 48 hours. Then at the 50 jacking hour mark, you handle that motor bearing lubrication. Every 60 days at an absolute minimum, you must perform a brake test, even if the rig hasn't jacked at all. And then, annually, or based on condition, you're running your lab oil analysis, insulation resistance testing, and magnetic particle inspections of the gear teeth.
And finally, of course, there are the as-needed wear-based items, things like brake discs, bearings, and pinions. They don't always fail on a neat, predictable calendar schedule. You replace these as their physical condition dictates, which is based completely on those stringent visual and tolerance checks we've been discussing today.
So, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on. Are your motor bearings right now secretly baking from over-lubrication because someone on the crew thought more is better? Or have you followed every single protocol, hit every tolerance dead on, and ensured your rig is truly ready to jack safely? The extreme loads of the offshore environment forgive absolutely nothing. Take this knowledge, apply it meticulously, and protect your equipment. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay safe out there.